Today, I'll be talking about David and Goliath, and from a different point of view, talking about how David wasn't as helpless as what the story led him out to be. I'll talk today as well about the giants in our lives and how we are often intimidated by them. See, in the Old Testament, in 1 Samuel chapter 17, the story goes about David and Goliath and about how this giant of a man, Goliath, managed to intimidate the whole Israeli army. The battle scene is in Soko in Judea, in a valley, with an army on each side of the hills. Now this Goliath would wander down into the valley from the Philistine side and taunt the Israeli army who was on the other side. In 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 10, it says, "Then the Philistine said, 'This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other.'" Now the idea being whoever lost would become slaves of the other, and save an all-out war and lots of bloodshed. It seemed a good idea, but Goliath was huge and was a warrior from his youth. He was so intimidating that no Israelite was game to go up against him. Not even when Saul, the Israeli king, offered a reward of great wealth, the hand of his daughter, and tax exemption for their families. The text goes on to say that in 1 Samuel 17:11, on hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. See, Goliath must have been very scary and made a very intimidating figure standing there, heads and shoulders above everybody else. It's in the valley, offering to fight anyone from the Israeli army, and he was going to kill them. Now, the story swaps from the battlefield to a young man tending sheep out near Bethlehem. His name is David. Even though he was a youth, don't be fooled by that. He was good at tending sheep and keeping them safe. See, he'd already killed wild animals like the lions and the bears, and even hunted them down to rescue sheep out of their mouths. He was smart, he was fast, and we are told in this text that he also believed that God was on his side. See, David had a weapon. That weapon was a sling. See, it's not like the rubber slingshots we see today. This was a deadly weapon. Studies have shown the sort of sling that David used would have the impacting power of a 45 caliber handgun. The text says that the rock sunk into Goliath's forehead. Really, when you look at fast, agile David, and then look at huge, slow Goliath, it is possible to make the deduction that poor old Goliath never stood a chance. Now, it seems a bit odd in our day and age to look at a battle scene from the Old Testament and relate it to our Christianity today. For a start, it would be right to believe that the God that gave David his uncanny ability to accurately use a sling would be the same God that gave Goliath his height, strength and superior abilities with sword and spear. If we were to simply look at this story as the bloody defeat of an enemy of God's chosen people, see, we would be missing the point. The lesson for us today is about a giant or a monster who stands and taunts us, and we are genuinely intimidated and terrified. See, our giants may have all sorts of different names, like fear, unemployment, COVID-19, ongoing health concerns, financial pressures, relationship issues, family breakdowns. For a lot of us, the war is real. And Goliath is standing there right in front of us, taunting us to come down and fight him. We are terrified and dismayed. See, there's no way that we can possibly fight our Goliath. He's just too big and too strong. See, we don't have the strength or courage or even the abilities to take on such a battle. So we crouch. We hide in the corner, feeling intimidated and afraid. See, the mistake we all make is we see a giant and believe we have to fight them on their own terms. See, we willingly let the giant come down and taunt us. We let the giant choose the battlefield and even the weapons for the fight. Straight away, the giant has the advantage because the giant has chosen the battle and the weapons to suit their own strengths and abilities. So we're no match for that. And of course, we are afraid and intimidated because the odds have swung in the favour of the giant. To fight a giant on their terms would be stupid and suicidal, and the battle would be lost. Now, along comes David, who has developed and practiced his fighting style. See, when it comes to the fight, he has tracked down his smaller enemies and defeated them. One by one he has defeated them. And all the while, God has been on his side, protecting and guiding him. All of a sudden, lions and bears are no problem to him. He can rescue sheep from their hungry mouths. See, winning the smaller battles gives confidence to win the bigger battles. But they can only be won on our own terms, through the strength that God has given us, not the strength that God has given giants. See, we all have the ability to stand in front of our giants in the strength and abilities that God has given us and know that that giant doesn't stand a chance. See, we know that a lot of the battles we face are in our heads. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the battles aren't real. All I'm saying is the battle is fought in our heads because that is where intimidation starts and the battle plans are drawn. So let's think for a moment about the weapons we may have to defeat giants. Number one, copying all the negativity. It's like the whole Israeli army. It's really hard to fight a giant when you all that you hear around you is negative stuff. You can't beat this giant. They're too strong for you. You are too weak and insignificant. Who do you think you are trying to take on a giant anyway? See, ignore all the negativity, number one, because it's hard trying to be confident when everyone seems to be trying to bring us down. Number two, use the gifts God has given you. David already was aware of the awesome and deadly power of his sling, and he also planned ahead because he picked up extra stones. He picked up 5 stones to use in case he missed a shot or it just wasn't enough. Yes, David took a chance, but he was confident he could do it. See, we also have weapons given to us by God, and we can rely on God to help us to use them. Left only to ourselves, our gifts are good, but through God's power, our gifts become deadly to any giant who taunts us. Number 3, don't listen to giants, because their words and taunts mean nothing. Use positive self-talk. Make the battle about us and our victory over the giant, not our defeat at the hands of the giant. Speak always knowing the power that God has over any giant. Number 4, practice using our gifts. Don't rush out and try and defeat all the giants in one battle. Plan and prepare for the battle. Go out, protect the sheep first. Fight the small battles. Celebrate the wins. As we get more and more experienced, take on the larger battles until we are prepared to take on Goliath. Number 5, be faithful in all things. See, no battle can be won by hiding in the shadows, unless of course it's part of the plan. Be proactive, ready to strike the giant first, before they're even aware of what's going on. See, the way to beat a giant on their own terms is to catch them by surprise and defeat them before they can start to intimidate or scare us. See, the giants will come, and we need to be prepared to strike. And like David, we will surprise the giant and stun them enough so that with God's help, we can use the giant's own weapons against them and chop their heads off. See, God will also give us those weapons to take back to our own tents, as the text says, to put with all the other trophies of past victories, so that one day we can defeat any army or any enemy sent against us, which David was set to do as future king of Israel. See, no wonder he was known as a man after God's own heart. For us to be people after God's own heart, we also need to be like David and use the gifts that he has given us. Practice using those gifts and defeat the smaller enemies, and be confident in that God will show us the way and give us the courage and the strength that we need, until one day we are confident enough to walk into the battlefield, ignore all the rumblings of negativity, stroll up to the giant, all the while knowing that with God's help, the giant doesn't stand a chance. When that day comes, we will understand as David did, the battle is the Lord's. Thank you for listening to me today, and have a wonderful week. God bless.